This meeting is being recorded.
Good morning. Welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Lynchburg. We are glad you are here. Whoever you are, whatever your beliefs, whatever your age, and whomever you love, you are welcome here. As we work together for justice, compassion, and peace, we also acknowledge with humility that our buildings sit on Monacan land. My name is Courtney Senna. I'm the Director of Lifespan Education at this congregation. If you are with us for the first time, we are glad you chose to be here this morning to participate in the service for this church community we love. If you would like to receive our monthly newsletter and Friday email updates, please fill out the virtual visitor card found on our website, uulynchburg.org, under Sunday Services, or fill out the yellow card found in the back of the chair in front of you and place it in the offering basket during offering. Please take note of the announcements in the bulletin, and if you are on Zoom, you can find them in the Friday e-news. We are so excited. Today is a Generosity Sunday, and Terry will tell you more about that during the offering. It is so wonderful to be able to have social time after the service for those of us in the building. Thank you to those who bring snacks for us. We also ask that those who bring snacks each week, please stay at the end and commit to helping clean up for 15 minutes. That keeps our cleanup from being a burden on 2 or 3 folks every week. This is another way we can care for one another. Our congregation is currently experiencing numerous COVID cases right now. Please consider remasking during services. This will affect our town hall meeting. Since COVID and illness has struck so many of us, we will postpone our town hall meeting 1 week. It will now be held on January 22nd after the service. Our conversation about the name change will still take place tomorrow via Zoom at 7 p.m. You can find the link in the Friday e-news or by emailing Reverend Terry. An important email is headed your way. One project the Connections Committee has worked on for several months is the development of neighborhood groups, which are large neighborhood groups of members to enable us to develop friendship and support one another. Please take the time to read the email you receive and prepare for a Zoom gathering of UU folks who live fairly close to you. Now I invite us to release our worries about the world and our own lives as we enter into the service by taking some slow, calming breaths.
If we enter our time of worship, we light the flame of our chalice, sharing these words. May the light we now kindle inspire us to use our power to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, O Spirit of light. Let us now rise in body or spirit as we share together hymn 350, the ceaseless flow of endless time. Thank you, and be seated. And I'd like to invite all of those who are young at heart to come join Brittany and me up here. Whoops. Good morning, everyone. I haven't seen you since last year because I was in South Carolina last week. And I see everyone. I know, it's wonderful. Oh, I'm glad we missed you too. Hi, you want to come sit down? Can you find a place? Come on. Oh, really? Isn't it wonderful? You've taken off. Yeah. Wow. I want you to know that I found a really wonderful story that I like. And it reminded me of times when I was younger. You know, there were, and even our times. Yes. Oh, yeah. We're going to go to classes. Yeah, that's great. So, you know, we learn new things or we outgrow things. Sometimes it's very exciting, but sometimes it still feels uncomfortable. Like, do y'all remember when suddenly, when you were little like this, you could like run underneath tables, like running with them. And then one day you ran under the table and bonk, you hit your head. Uh-huh.
And my friends and my mates let us know blue guys and they smile.
Well, I'd like us to share a story that I hadn't heard before, but it's about a little boy who suddenly changes and he doesn't know what to do with these changes in his body and himself. So let's see what happens. Let's see.
Reading room. Today I'll read a helpful book called Perfectly Norman. I hope you like it. Perfectly Norman by Tom Percival. Norman had always been normal, perfectly normal. Until one day, he grew a pair of wings. Norman had imagined growing taller or growing a beard like his dad, but he had never imagined growing a pair of wings. Still, they were here now, so he decided to test them out right away. Soon Norman was swooping around and generally having the most fun ever. But then, dinner. He had to go in for dinner. You see, Norman had always been so normal, he didn't know how his parents would feel about his extraordinary wings. As he went in, Norman covered himself up in a great big coat. His parents didn't notice the wings, but he did think it was odd to be wearing a coat indoors. Bath time was problematic, so was bedtime. The coat was hot and uncomfortable, but Norman had decided that no one should see his wings, ever. The next day, Norman went to the park, but he was far too hot to play any of his favorite games. And so it went on. Long car journeys were unbearable. The swimming pool was dreadful. And that was nothing compared to his friend's birthday party. The only time that Norman could feel normal now was when it rained. One day, a boy tried to pull his coat off, and Norman had to run away, hot-faced, angry, and sad. He wished he'd never grown those stupid wings. Then he saw some birds high up in the sky and remembered the joy of his first flight. It occurred to Norman that it was the coat that was making him miserable, not the wings. "Why don't you take that scruffy old thing off?" suggested his mom and dad. Norman looked up at them hesitantly. His parents smiled and nodded. Norman smiled back. Then he threw off the coat and let his wonderful wings fan out. Norman leapt into the air. Finally, he was free of that coat. He noticed a few other children wearing thick, heavy coats of their own. He looked up at Norman and around at one another nervously. There was a moment's pause, and then the sky was filled with flying people. Norman had never felt so happy. He realized that there was no such thing as perfectly normal, but he was perfectly Norman, which was just as it should be. The end. If you like my video, please hit the subscribe button down below. Thank you. Have a great day. See you soon.
Norman changed, but he was hiding a very special part of himself. So as you go to your classes and everybody keeping their hands to themselves, I'd like to ask y'all to remember and to think about how you might be changing, and that we like you just the way you are, and we like all of your changes. Yes, let's all wave to everybody on Zoom. Good idea. And let's wave to these people. And now we're going to sing y'all to your classes. Okay? Almost. We've got to get the chalices.
Yes. Yes, I'm going to invite Cece and Beth to help light our chalices this morning. And I'm also so happy to introduce our new upper religious education teacher, Allie, who is with us today. And we are so happy to have her joining our teaching team. And all these little ones are going to go with me, where we are going to go upstairs and learn about centering the differences and the samenesses of one another.
Oh, what is a good plan to make wings? And when Kaylin and Dee are done with their you got that too, that's my Gosh, I love that story. How many of us ever wanted to sprout wings? Yeah, several of us. Our theme for this month is finding our center. And I think it's a great theme for the beginning of a new year. January is a perfect time to consider where we center our lives as individuals and to recommit to the grounded center of our congregation. The Reverend Joe Cherry wrote a poem, Let the Center Hold. This is my prayer. Please let the center hold. The center is what holds our faith together. The strength of the center is what allows us to stretch farther into the future. The unknown, the untried, the uncertain, the unnerving, the places where growth happens. Let the center be strong, and let the center of this living tradition move with the times. Let the center of our living tradition lead the times. May the strength of the center strengthen us as we seek, as we embody compassion, work for equity, demand justice for all. Let our center hold. Strong as an old oak tree, flexible as the willow tree, life-giving as an orange tree, evergreen as the pine tree, and as beautiful as the almond tree in blossom. It's my pleasure to introduce our Generosity Sunday speaker, Shawn Farmer, who's part of Interfaith Outreach. And she's been a guest here before, and we're so happy to have you back. And there are lots of people here who have had fun with some of the IOA fundraising in the last few months. So Shawn, thank you for being here and telling us some about the important projects that y'all are working on. Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Good morning. It's always such a joy to be with you all, even when it's rainy and somewhat icy. So thank you for having us back. Interfaith Outreach this year begins our 43rd year of helping our neighbors in need in Central Virginia. And just when we began the fall thinking, oh goodness, everything's going to be more settled. And now we've got the rampant inflation and the very, very high heating bills that so many people have. So this kind of trickles through almost everything that we do, all of our many programs. And starting with our furniture program, to give you an update about that. We have been the busiest we've ever been with furniture, as we are now providing furniture and furnishings for people who have been homeless through Miriam's House, through our programs at Interfaith Outreach, as well as those who have been temporarily displaced and in need of or looking for housing while they're with someone else. And when they find it, they need everything. And so to say that it has been busy is an understatement, but we continue to be so grateful for all the gifts that we've received from the community for that. And if you want to make a difference with that program, we need pots and pans. Real simple. Great way to save money is to eat at home, but to eat at home, you have to have certain things to be able to do that. So we welcome anything that might even be used along that line if you're not in need of it anymore. Another program that has been busy is our Progressive Release program where we teach life skills in the Lynchburg and Amherst jails. And we are set to begin a new 8-week session of that in both Lynchburg and Amherst for men and women, and continue to be very excited about working with people who want to change their lives and then being there for them when they are released to help them get back on their feet, offering them support in whatever way we possibly can. Another program that we have that has been incredibly busy is our Rebuilds program, where we do simple home repairs for elderly and disabled people in our community who don't have the resources to be able to help themselves. Anybody have trouble with their house, whether it be heat or electric or pipes, over the Christmas break or because of the severe cold temperatures that we had? Okay, now imagine not having any money to be able to fix your pipes, fix your heat, fix your water heater. Just Friday, they have just helped a dozen different families with things related to that cold, and pipes that burst or water heaters that burst and flooded basements as a result of the pipes. On Friday, we were able to restore the heat for someone who had reached out to us who had been without heat for 6 days. And so same thing with another family that had been without water and heat, and we were able to do that on Friday as well. Sometimes it's not a big fix. Sometimes it's just someone who knows what they need to do to be able to patch something up and get it started. And so we were so grateful, that we had the resources to be able to do that. We continue to have our Vision program where we provide rides for people who are blind and need help getting to medical appointments. And Pat has been one of our biggest volunteers with that program, and we are in need of more volunteers if you are interested. Last but not least, our emergency assistance program has been extremely busy with people's heat bills going up in the last month. In many cases, the heat bills have tripled, and because it was cold. We all remember it was 5 degrees Christmas Eve morning, at least in my house when we woke up and went outside. And your heat runs harder when it's that cold, and it stayed cold for a long time. And so now everybody is seeing those bills, but they might not have the resources to be able to pay the bills. And it's very important to us, as I know it was to you, having started the emergency fuel assistance program for the elderly, to keep people warm when it is cold outside. Because so many bad things can happen, especially for people who are elderly and have limited resources. And so we have been very busy trying to keep everyone with heat. In fact, Allie, who now works with you all, she has been working with us since, July. And she is the first face of Interfaith Outreach, or the voice of Interfaith Outreach, I should say, that people hear when they call us for assistance. And she is doing the screening. And I know you guys are going to You already know her through Molly and many other people, but I know she's going to do a great job for you with your education program. Last but not least, we have taken over a homeless prevention program for Central Virginia. And people who are within 5 days of being homeless are sent to us so that we can scramble to try to find them the resources that we need or that they need to be able to get them in stable housing or to stabilize them for a while wherever they are, which is not homeless at that point, to be able to find them a safe, warm, and dry place that they can call home. So your gifts to us make such a difference, especially during these times of high prices and severe cold, evictions, everything else going on. So thank you so much for continuing to recognize the important work that we do. We'd love to have you come volunteer sometime when it warms up in our furniture warehouse or even in our Rebuilds Ramp Building program. There's something for everybody there. So thank you so much for all that you do.
And Sean, thank you for making such a huge difference in our community. And advertisement for a few months from now. A number of us enjoyed either donating or participating in the Interfaith Craft Fair before Thanksgiving, and it may be our turn next year to host. So find out more about that later. Today we take an offering of our gifts, both for the work of our community, and we also invite you to give generously today to enhance and continue the important ministry of interfaith outreach. And so if you're here, you can put your offering in the baskets, or if you're on Zoom, you may make a donation on the internet, on our website, or mail a check to the congregation. So we give thanks for your generous gifts that are generously offered and gratefully received. It is the tradition Spirit of Life, we hold up today all the concerns that at times seem to overwhelm us. May we know that we are not alone, that we are supported by family and friends and this community which is committed to care for one another. We hold up today those who are ill in mind, body, or spirit, that they may find healing and wholeness. And we hold up our concern for our nation. We have so much work to do to heal broken places, the chasms, to learn what it means to care for all people, regardless of class or race or creed. And even though there are times when the work seems daunting and we feel overwhelmed, may we return to the reality of the wonder and mystery of life, the foundation of our faith that encourages us to find the inherent worth and dignity of all people. And may we work to find renewal and hope and justice and love in this new year. Amen. Blessed be. We seem to have developed a January tradition since I've been here. When we consider an important aspect of our community life during this first month of the year, we might as well get off to a running start, right? 2 years ago, we worked together to develop a mission statement, and we have the bumper stickers to confirm our work. Last year, we developed a congregational covenant. This is our year to reconsider a topic that has been explored over the years. How does our name speak to the way we want to be known? Each of these projects has helped us focus and begin to shape our future. This endeavor is not unique to us. Every religious community I know is trying to reimagine its mission and its future. The world is different now. It's a sign of strength that we are openly addressing the balance, tension, and possibility we hold within our congregation. So this January, I invite us to explore together whether the current name of our congregation adequately represents both our rich history in Lynchburg and also who we are becoming. Of course, names are a loaded thing. Names can represent our heritage, such as inheriting a name from a forebear. I'm a fifth generation of women named Terrell Elizabeth in my family. That's unusual for women. Names can represent a change in status or identity. My younger daughter has changed her name because she's transitioning into the person she's meant to be. Her male name no longer represents her identity. And certainly, we are accustomed to institutions merging and evolving, morphing into new institutions with new names. Our name is both our identity and part of our evolution as beings, institutions, and communities. This consideration that I'm encouraging is not new for us. I understand that our name has been discussed in prior years. Certainly, I imagine, though I haven't been told this, that after the merger of the Unitarians and Universalists in 1961, there must have been some conversation about affirming the new manifestation of our faith from Unitarian to Unitarian Universalist. I can also imagine that committed founders of our congregation may have been hesitant to change the name. I'm sure our forebears, our founders, remembered how challenging it must have been in the years after World War I to found a liberal religious community in Lynchburg. This building is a testament to their tenacity. I know that at another time in history, this congregation was the only religious community where Blacks and whites could gather. So our name represented a commitment to integration and civil rights and justice. Our name carries a heritage. And it is that heritage that I believe needs to help lead us into the future. Building this community and working for inclusion all pointed to a mission and hope for the future. Many of you sitting here or gathered on Zoom know much more about the history and earlier conversations than I know. So I hope in the coming days we can share our history with one another. I've had a couple of really good conversations with Molly McLennan. But it's a good time to explore our roots and our wings in January as we once again reconnect to the grounding, the center of our faith. Our Time for All Ages story was chosen because most of us, like the little boy Norman, find it discomforting when change comes upon us, even if change means exciting potential. Lots of us would love to fly like Norman. Our dilemma is always whether we claim the changes that appear or deny them. The wonderful reality is that unlike many congregations around the country, we're here for the duration. Though not all our longtime members have returned after COVID, we welcome wonderful new people into our congregation. This discussion about our name involves an intentional exploration of our identity, of how we see ourselves and our future. This week, I chatted again with Molly about earlier conversations. She helped me understand some of the dynamics, some of the players in that name discussion. I know the conversations were thoughtful and respectful, seeking to honor multiple opinions, and sometimes trying to make everyone happy can create a complex resolution. And we are in a different world now. It's a different world since COVID began. Our official name is First Unitarian Church of Lynchburg, Unitarian Universalist. And as wonderful as it is, it's too awkward for a world that functions in sound bites. Our name doesn't fit on any forms, banners, or protest signs, if you're going to include the whole thing. I can only speak for myself, and with due respect, right now our name is so long it feels like trying to write the number pi. I mean, I can never say it all. Most folks don't get to the end of our name, and it's the end that's the most important to me, because the last word is universalist, and our universalist heritage is very important. It's influenced other faith traditions in America, as well as shaping our inclusion and openness to all. And not claiming our universalist heritage is concerning for people. It's important to claim that heritage. Since I've arrived here, I've encountered a few folks who said they were looking for a Universalist church. I had to explain that, in fact, we were Unitarian Universalists, but they hadn't read the name all the way to the end. Given my theological leanings and the people searching for an inclusive spiritual community, I always call us First Unitarian Universalist. For me, this reinforces what we say every Sunday. We're glad you're here. Whoever you are, whatever your beliefs, whatever your age, and whomever you love, you are welcome here. That is the universalist part of our identity. Over the past few days, members and friends have sent emails thanking me for addressing this important matter. And Fawn Ross Martin gave me permission to share part of the email she sent. She wrote, "I'm so sad I can't come to the service tomorrow since I'll be working at the local UU church here. But this sermon is so meaningful to me. I thought I'd spend a minute sharing my thoughts on it. I've always used First UU as the shortened name when referring to our church. I know many use First U as the shortened form, but I never thought that reflected our true faith identity. So I always added the honorary U. I'm excited to see the thoughtfulness and willingness to change that this service reflects. I'm proud that my home church has always been that way. For me, it's including that second U, Universalist, that inspires our mission statement, especially that final line, we live love in the world. As we consider our name, there are actually two parts of our name to consider, and I think in the town hall meeting, we need to consider them separately. First, certainly, is including our universalist identity front and center, so people know we are part of Unitarian Universalism. The other consideration is whether we want to be called a church or congregation, fellowship, or society. It gets complicated, as all Unitarian Universalist discussions get. Our first decision might mean officially and legally affirming that we are the Unitarian Universalist Church or Congregation of Lynchburg, or First Unitarian Universalist Congregation or Church. I tried to leave out church in those phrases before, because our second consideration really does have to do with the word church. And while for some people the word church is wonderful and fine, for many people, church is a loaded word. It contains heavy baggage. It's painful. One of my oldest friends, who is a Muslim Unitarian Universalist, that's a mouthful, often talks about how difficult it was for her to be a member of a UU church, because her family was very concerned that that meant that she was Christian and she was leaving her heritage. For others, and this is a more important issue in communities like Lynchburg, where there is a more fundamentalist Christian institution that holds a lot of power, the word church often represents suffering, exclusion, and alienation. While our heritage emerged from the Judeo-Christian tradition, we've evolved over the centuries. Our inclusive interfaith approach to religion and spirituality is broad and deep. It needs a descriptive word that honors our inclusive nature and is not assumed to be only Christian-based, even though there are many of us who consider themselves UU Christians. Already, a few of us think the word congregation is more in keeping with the nature of our community. Our name needs to honor our roots while it gives us wings. This is a new year when we look to the future. That future needs to be grounded in the mission we have chosen for ourselves. That mission needs to be at the core of decisions about our identity. As we begin our reflection on reconsidering our name, it seems appropriate for me that we just take a minute or so this morning to share our mission statement, because I think it needs to ground our thinking and our reflection. So I think I don't think everybody has bulletins, but hopefully it's written there. So those of you who can, share it with me. As a loving, vibrant, and inclusive community, we celebrate the dignity of all beings and nurture lifelong spiritual and ethical growth. Encouraging compassion for all, we protect the vitality of our natural world and act for justice, equity, and peace. We live love in the world. The words we use are important. They shape us. They shape who we are becoming. In the coming days, I invite you to consider how we name ourselves. Tomorrow evening, I invite everyone to join me on Zoom to talk about this some more if you have questions. And Larry needs to be out of the hospital because I was counting on him to bring up good discussion points. So I'm going to call him tonight and tell him he better get better tonight. So the Zoom link is in the Friday e-news. If you can't find it, just email me. Who can we become as members of the First Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Lynchburg, or the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Lynchburg, or perhaps another iteration to take us into the future? I invite us, each of us, to find time in the next few days to put our hearts in a holy place, to honor the needs both of our current members and of those who are hungry to find a community that will welcome them home. In that spirit, I invite us to rise in body or spirit to share hymn 1008 in the teal hymnal, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. We extinguish our chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Our closing benediction are the words of the Reverend Scott Taylor. Having found stillness, may we share peace. Having received connection, may we reach out to others. Having heard the call of our deepest self, may we live in greater alignment. Having returned to our center, may we expand the circle of love. Blessed be.